Welcome to VyCast, where we bring a blend of knowledge, expertise, and fun to the world of finance. Stay tuned for our exciting episode packed with insights and practical tips that will help you achieve your financial goals. Welcome to VyCast, the podcast where we do good and help you bank better. I'm Charlene Shirk. Now, when it comes to investing, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. What you need in your 20s can look very different from your 40s, 50s, and beyond. And for women, the journey can come with unique challenges and opportunities along the way. So today we're breaking down how investing can evolve through every stage of your life and what women should consider when building long-term financial confidence and security. And joining us today are Wade Bramlett and Stephanie Starling, both Vice Presidents of Wealth Management Investment Services here at VyStar. And together they work closely with members to help them navigate investing decisions at every stage of life. And because March is Women's History Month, we're going to kick off our conversation with Stephanie to talk specifically about women in investing and why that journey can look a little different. Thank you both so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Stephanie, what makes investing for women unique compared to men? And how should women think about those realities when building that long-term investment strategy?
I think that it looks different for us because we could have some career changes and life events that men might not be facing. We may need to take time off work, pause to have some children, and then may go back into the workforce later. So a lot of women will lose track of their finances, lose track of their retirement plans, and kind of give up on investing. So it's important to not let those things happen. I know it's difficult especially when you're a new mom, to get a handle on everything at once, but taking some time to get organized and get all of your ducks in a row really pay off in the long run.
All right, that sounds like a lot of challenges that women in particular have to face, but we're women. So what opportunities are there for us?
I would say some opportunities or strengths that women have is that when we do sit down and make that plan, women tend to be more confident and stick to the plan and long-term focused. So once we put in that legwork up front, they tend to make it work long-term.
Okay. All right. I like that. Okay. Now that's such an important foundation for women and men regardless, right? Understanding how life events can shape your confidence and your consistency when it comes to investing. And I know consistency is the key word here. So let's zoom in a little bit, whether you're male or female, and let's talk about, that 20 to 30 age range, right? We got a lot going on, right? We've graduated college, we're juggling student loans. Maybe we bought our first house, our first car. We've got a family, we're investing in the future. There's a lot going on. So Wade, I'm going to put you on the spot now and talk a little bit about that early career stage, right? People say, oh, you should be aggressive when you're younger, but oh my goodness, you're paying all that out and you're really not at your peak earning years yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously we all know that we're super busy during that time in our lives and we have a lot of things going on. And I think the important thing is to prioritize, starting with a budget, number one. I think that's the biggest thing. And when budgeting, paying yourself first is one of the biggest things I try to stress when I'm meeting with someone that's getting started, because if you pay yourself first, you think of it as a bill. So think of yourself as a bill. You're paying that bill, whether it's like an auto loan or something of that nature. You're putting yourself first. You're prioritizing your future. And it's like a juggling act. You've got to, wear multiple hats and do multiple things. But if you don't start, you put yourself that much further behind later on.
And when you say pay yourself first, are you talking about savings and investing?
Yes, both. I mean, obviously the first key thing in investing is having a good emergency fund available. So, we want to have that in place so that we can invest long-term, so that we can take that risk that you were talking about. We have to make sure that we are able to handle those fluctuations. And when we need money, we have money available. But at the same time, we want our investments to be successful long term.
So we're talking about 20s and 30s, paying yourself first. And maybe that's the time you can be a little riskier, right? Because you have such a long runway when it comes to being able to earn money and invest money. And I want to come back to you, Stephanie, because statistically speaking, women tend to live at least an average of 5+ years longer than men. So would this be the time that women really need to start, maybe them being more aggressive at this time period, knowing that they've got, a much longer runway, that they got to get their money to last for them?
Definitely. That's why it's important to start early, invest often, and stick to the plan. We need to have a plan, know where your money is going, set that budget, and once you have that plan in place, keep going.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the perspective really highlights that, we're talking about 20s and 30s, right? And so talking about what's unique to women. So investing isn't something static, right? It's not a set it and forget it kind of thing in your life. So as people start moving in their 30s and 40s, whether you're male or female, your careers tend to be a little bit more established, right? Income is higher, stakes feel a little bit bigger, and you're often balancing now like growth with protection. So wait, as people start to hit that mid-career stage, what do you start thinking about shifting in terms of like aggressive investing and then, as you're hitting the 30 to 40s, is it aggressive and then conservative? Like what should be the cadence during those 2 decades of your life?
I mean, it's going to be on an individual basis. Obviously, goals are different for different people. Generally speaking, one person can be a little more conservative at that time because they're getting closer to meeting the goals that they want to meet. Others may want to stay on the gas pedal, right? They might want to be in that fast lane a little longer and get a little bit more aggressive because they've got bigger goals. So, the biggest thing is, and one of the things I love about this job is it's not a one-size-fits-all type scenario. We meet with people, we make sure we understand their time frame, their comfort level with risk, and then we kind of help coach them in that time and help adjust it along the way.
I thought that was really interesting because when you said, well, sometimes you can be conservative because people have reached their goals, right? But some people, maybe they didn't make as much money, right? And they now they have to catch up during that time period. I thought that was a really interesting point.
If we're spending in the earlier years and can't save as much in the beginning, we may have to catch up and be more aggressive later on. So it is on an individual basis. And risk is this thing that, well, we hit this age, we've got to be here. But honestly, it's per the person.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about how investing evolves through the different points in your life and strategies may change. But like one thing that I know you guys preach is that, you want to feel confident and control of your financial life, no matter what stage of life you're in or no matter what experience you're going through. Because as you said, you've got a lot of life challenges, right? And so, all right, back to the spirit of Women's History Month. I want to bring it back to something very simple and actionable. And Stephanie, if you've maybe had some of those changes in your life, you've had a divorce or you've been widowed or you've been a single mom, if you will, like what's the one thing in March that women could do if they're not feeling so in control of their finances? What's like one thing they can do to really start setting themselves on a really good journey?
I would say find your accounts. Figure out where your money is coming from, where it's going to, where are your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your old 401k accounts. Check your beneficiaries, make sure your investments are correct and that you're investing and that that money is growing how it should.
I think it was interesting. The first thing you said was find your accounts.
That's the hard
What
part.
are you seeing? Are women not knowing like where their accounts are?
I would say it's women and men. You just lose track of them, especially when these life events happen. You're moving, you're having children, switching jobs. It's easy to say, oh, I'll do that next month. And then 3 years go by. And we have no clue where your old 401k is. So it can be easy to lose track of these things. And so I think just finding them and checking on them and then meeting with someone to review them and get a plan will give everyone the confidence they need.
What would you say about, I know sometimes people they just don't want to see it. They just don't want to know. They're intimidated by their own finances. What advice would you give them to get past that? Because sometimes there's a little bit of maybe embarrassment, right? I haven't been keeping my eye on things and maybe they go through a divorce or they lose a spouse and now all of a sudden, like you said, they find themselves and they're like, I don't even know what accounts I have. Like, what would you say to them to help? They're not alone, right?
I would tell them they're not alone. This is very common. This is my job. This is what we love doing. I love helping people through these difficult times to get organized. Let's find everything. Let's get a plan in place. And they'll leave way more confident than when they came in.
All right, now we're going to shift into maybe the 50s and beyond, right? So now is the time that hopefully you've had some good time to be able to invest. So wait, for people who are in their 50s, like, you always hear like this is the time to be a little bit more conservative, but like right now the stock market's doing well. So at 50, you still may have another 15, 20 years of work left. So define conservative, like how conservative are you talking?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We hear a lot of times people want to be conservative, right? I'm this age and I need to be conservative because I'm this age. And unfortunately, a lot of times I find that people are too conservative at times. They are in guaranteed products, whether that's, a savings account or CDs or something that's giving them a guaranteed rate. But with the rates going downward currently, that's not a viable long-term solution to keep up with inflation and our income goals. So, typically we recommend having a portfolio that still has a level of risk in it, something that can keep up with those income needs as well as help us mitigate those challenges in the market as well. Because we know the market goes down, but it also goes up. So we want to make sure that we're involved in that as well and have a growth component still in that portfolio for those that are either about to retire or even in retirement.
And what about the clients who come to you and they say, okay, I'm reading the news and this is really hot in the market right now. Everybody's investing in crypto or everybody's investing in AI. What advice do you have for those? Because I'm sure you hear it all the time.
I follow a high quality long-term investment strategy. So for serious money, we tend to say stay diversified. If that looks to be a good part of their puzzle, then we will look at that for them. But I never advocate to do all or nothing in a specific investment or in a specific strategy.
All right, before we wrap up, I want to get one quick takeaway from each of you. What is the one thing that you want our audience to remember about investing, no matter where they are in life? Stephanie, we'll start with you.
I'd say it's important to have a plan, whether you're just starting off and you're younger or you're about to retire and need to choose when you take Social Security. You need to have a plan, and it's okay to ask for help.
Wade?
I think I'll go back to the paying yourself first. I think a lot of times we get focused on things we can't control. The market goes up, it goes down. We can't control the market, but what we can control is how much we're putting away when we start and how disciplined we are with that. So I think paying yourself first is the biggest key in this. And it doesn't take much. I mean, $100 a month, $200 a month, it adds up over time. And the earlier you get started, the more that can add up.
I think that's great advice. You always hear those things. Well, if you'd put $20 a week away when you were 20, you'd be a millionaire by now. You always hear those stories. And it's true.
It's true.
Right.
See, that's true. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
What a great
Thank you.
conversation. And thanks for sharing your insights and helping break down what investing can look like at every stage of your life. And, no matter where you are in your financial journey, the right plan can make all the difference. So if today's conversation sparked some questions or helped you think differently about your next step, VyStar is here to help. Visit vystarcu.org to learn more or connect with a wealth management professional. And be sure to subscribe to VyCast for more conversations like this wherever you get your podcasts, because we don't want you to miss an episode. You can also follow us on Facebook at VyStar CU, Instagram and YouTube at VyStar Credit Union, and give us your thoughts on a topic you'd like us to cover. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.